everybody, Bonnie here. How's everybody today? I finished this book here, the what's it called? Mini Amigurumi birds. It was really fun. Jenny from Jenny's Hobbies. Hi Jenny. She had asked me if I wanted to work along with her through this book, and then there are two other books that we're going to be doing. So it took about a month. I wanted to finish them in January, but at the beginning of January I had gotten sick, so that set things behind. But I did finish them February 1st, so you can totally make this book in a month's time. I have all the birds right here in these two nests. These nests I just freehanded because they needed to be contained. Since these guys are so small, I will be taking you over to my desk and showing you one at a time all of these cute little birds. So let's head on over there. So here is the book that I worked out of. It took about a month to do every single pattern in this book. It is Mini Amigurumi Birds, 25 Flying Creatures to Crochet by Sarah Abundio. And I will be showing you guys just in order the birds as they are in the book, and let's get started. This is a really, would say it's a really good book. There is the table of contents right there, and then here are all of the birds, which I will show you. Here is the picture of the cockatoo in the book. Now, one thing that I kind of wish this book had is more pictures, because there are not detailed pictures at all that show you where to sew things on. So for the cockatoo, we have this picture here, and on the pattern page we have this picture. And that's it. That's really all you get, because the picture that goes with the pattern, like on the pattern page, is the same exact picture that is in the beginning of the book where it shows all of them together. So here is my little cockatoo. I used a 3.5 hook on this, and I think 8mm eyes, safety eyes. I just used scrap yarns. These projects do not take up very much yarn at all. There is a lot of sewing involved. For this one, you have to sew on everything. Later, like for the next bird, it uses the cockatoo's body, so I made the body no sew for the next bird. But anyway, yeah, I had to sew on the head and the tail and the feet. It doesn't take very long to make all of these pieces. I would say it takes just as long to sew them on as it does to crochet everything. So it's like it takes a little longer. What I'm trying to say is these little projects take a little bit longer than you'd think. As far as the size for this little guy, I think it's like a couple of inches. Let's see. It's like 3 inches maybe. I don't know. It's like 3.5. So these are pretty tiny. This one is like from the tip of the feather there. It's 4 inches. I mean, I would make these again, some of them. This one, yeah, I would make this little bird again. So this is the cockatoo. The next bird in the book is the macaw. I really like how this one turned out. It's probably one of my favorites. This is the macaw right here. It was super easy with the color changes. All of the pieces, they're easy. I mean, they can be a little fiddly though because they are so small. I used a 3.5 hook, and this one I did a no sew with the head and body pieces. So for the cockatoo, I did separate head, separate body, sewed them together. For the macaw, it's one piece, and it worked out really good. For other birds that also used the cockatoo's body, I did the no sew with the head and the body, but you do sew on the wings and all of the other little pieces. So there's the macaw. The next cute little bird is the toucan. Now the toucan obviously has a different body shape than the cockatoo and the macaw, so not all of them use the same body shapes. This one, the head is separate to be sewn on to the body. It was relatively simple though, but one thing is this guy won't stand. It's top heavy, so if I were to make this again, I would put in one of those little glass beads, or maybe a couple of them, in the body so it will stand up. But I mean, if you're gonna make a keychain out of it, because these are all like 3 to 4 inches, then you don't really have to worry about that. But there's our toucan. Our next bird is the hummingbird, and you can see some of my writing. I do write in my books because the next time I make it, I want to remember what I did and help myself out with any tips or tricks. So what I had written in the book is I did something a little different for the tail because it wasn't working out for me, and I just wanted the tail to look a little bit bigger. So my daughter picked out the colors for the color for the hummingbird. Actually, this is a really bright neon green. In the camera, it's showing up more pastel-y, but it's a bright one. So we have the hummingbird, which would make a really cute keychain, I think. Next, we have the peacock. This one involved a little more sewing than the others, just because of all of the feathers. Here is my peacock. One thing though, if I were to make this as a gift or to sell, I would make the back of the feathers neater, maybe even double them up so that I could, you know, put both of the insides, like the backs, together, and it would be pretty on both sides, because it does look pretty cute here. These are color changes, so at least you don't have to sew all of these little tiny pieces, but then you get the back of it, which just doesn't look so great. The head, the neck, and the body are one piece, and this peacock body is used for some of the other birds also. I really think it's cute, the little feathers on the head. So there is the peacock. The next one in the book is the ostrich. I think this one is really cute. This was my favorite one from the entire book. Here is my little ostrich. I used a 3.5 hook and 6mm safety eyes. The body is a sparkly black yarn. It's not really picking up, but it does sparkle. I love how these turned out, these wings and the back tail feathers. I don't know, I really like how this one looks. It's so cute. Our next little bird is the emu. Now, the pattern, I believe, used, eyelash yarn. No thank you. I donated all of my eyelash yarn. I don't know. I just don't like eyelash yarn. So let me show you my little emu. Here is my emu. And I did not give it cheeks. That's just the yarn. This gray yarn is from a Karen Big Cakes. And those yarns, they do have like little flecks of other colors, but I think it looks cute. I do remember that the beak is a Lion Brand's like wool blend. For the body, I used latte cake yarn, which I think gave it just the right fuzziness. Really easy to work with compared to the eyelash yarn, in my opinion anyway. So this is my little emu. This one is really adorable too. Next, we have the flamingo, which also uses the body shape for the peacock. Here is my flamingo. I used a little brighter pink than they did in the book, and the body is the peacock body. And one thing that I didn't mention with the peacock was you put the eyes in and then you crochet the rest of it, because you have to, like, you would not be able to fit your fingers through the neck. But my flamingo is kind of looking to the side a bit. I just did like the pattern told you, and in a couple of the other birds, when I realized that the face could be crooked, I did adjust. So you might need to adjust a few stitches to make sure that your bird is facing straight. But this one just got some character. So this is my flamingo. I really like the feathers, the two wings. I think those turned out really cool, but it doesn't show you or tell you how to sew them on. It's just like sew them on. And there are, again, like no detailed pictures. I really wish there were pictures of the back of these birds so you could just kind of see where things go, because you just sew things on how you like them. Our next bird is the penguin. So I actually made 2 penguins. This is the first one, which is like my fail penguin. It calls for the cockatoo body, and the cockatoo body, the neck is more pronounced, and then when I did the no-sew version, it's got even more of a neck, and I thought that might have been too much for a penguin because they don't really have a dominant like neck area, you know. So I didn't decrease as far, but then it looked kind of funny, and then I used a thicker white yarn, and I couldn't get the safety eyes to hook properly through both layers of yarn. So I thought, well, I'll just embroider eyes, and I do not like how these look. These do not look good, and I wasn't really happy with the yellow that I chose. So I remade the penguin, and this one is much cuter. The yellow is just a little bit darker. As you can see, I do have the safety eyes in because I used a thinner white yarn. The yarn that I used for this one here with the thicker white is a Loops and Threads classic acrylic, which it does have, it is just slightly thicker than some other number 4 yarns, and I think the white for this was a Bernat acrylic yarn. So, and then I just decreased down like I did for the Macaw and the Cockatoo for the neck. And then, like, one thing I don't like is all these little pieces. This is polyfill. This is not hair, you guys. If I were to give this away, I would go through and really like pick out all the pieces of the polyfill. I think this one turned out pretty cute. Next we have the Rockhopper penguin. This one turned out really cool, I think. Here is my Rockhopper penguin. I really like how this one turned out. It's so cute, and I love just the colors. This was just scrap yarn. I don't know what kind of, it might be Red Heart, but I don't know. It seems a little more scratchy than Red Heart, and the yellow, I'm not sure. They were gifted to me. So anyway, there is my penguin. I did give it 10mm eyes because obviously it's crocheted with black yarn, and black safety eyes don't always show up the greatest. But it works, and in person you can really see it. You see the reflection of the ring light in both of the eyes there. Next we have the Puffin. This one is so cute. Here is my little Puffin. Very, very cute. One thing though, the pattern, like it showed this line right by the whites, or right by the eyes, but it didn't tell you to do that. So I was like, well, is that a mistake or what? I did Google image puffins, and they do have like kind of like a line there. So I just took some embroidery floss on both sides and gave it the little detail. I did the no-sew head and body, and then everything else, like all the other patterns, is sewn on. If you don't know how to do that, how to make a head and body no-sew, you just do the head like usual, but where it tells you to really decrease down and then cinch it, you just stop, and then you match up. Like it'll say go down to 6 stitches, and then you're supposed to cinch it together or sew it together. Just don't do that, and then go to the body round that calls for maybe 6 stitches or sometimes 12, and then just continue down. And I really like that. I really like that. I don't mind sewing on pieces like the wings and the feet, pretty easy, but head and bodies, I like the more seamless look. Next we have the Kingfisher. The Kingfisher, I did change the wings just a little bit so it would fit on my little bird's body. Here's my Kingfisher. Looks pretty much like the book did, the book version. But when I made this back wing, which is one piece, it was way too big for my bird. Like it wouldn't lay right. You couldn't see this round of orange. It didn't work. So instead of doing what the book says for the last round of this wing, all I did was I just single crocheted. and it took down the size just enough, and it worked out pretty good. So obviously this is one piece here, and then you just had to sew on the wings and the feet and the beak. I was surprised with a lot of these beaks that they weren't too bad. When you have to start in a magic ring with 3 or 4 single crochets, sometimes that can be a bit tricky, but it works out pretty good, I thought. The next bird in the book is the Blackbird. Now the Blackbird does have the tail feather, but this is the only picture you get. You can't see where to sew it on. And it doesn't have feet for some reason. Here is the Blackbird. Once again, this body is the same body as a Cockatoo. It does have some wings, but no feet, and a little tail feather. I do think the tail feather is cute. This one was probably the simplest one to make because there are no color changes, nothing fancy, and relatively easy. The next bird is the robin. Now the robin is Michigan's state bird, and so we see a lot of them here. I really like robins. It might be my favorite bird, but the robins around here, they do not have a red face. They're like robin redbreast. They've got, you know, the red breast like a robin should. So I'm not quite sure why there's a red face on this one, and I did not make mine with the red face. Here is my robin. This is the same pattern, same shape from the book. They just have it up around the face, and I moved it down to the chest, which I think looks more like the birds that we see here in Michigan. This one's kind of a chunky one. The wings are a bit longer than some of the other wings from the other birds, and the feet were a little bit different also. They don't really have the toes as some of the other birds do, but I think it looks just as cute. So we have the robin. The next bird in the book is the blue tit. This one is really cute. Here is mine. The body is different than the robin, even though it looks pretty similar. It is a different pattern than the robin, and I really like the color work on this. It turned out pretty good. The wing is also a little bit different than the Kingfisher wing. This one's a little more fancy, and I like this wing better. I think if I make the Kingfisher again, I'll go with the pattern for this one. And this one's got a tail feather, and it's got the little feet. So we have our blue tit right here. We also have a lot of these birds in Michigan. Here is the seagull. Here's my seagull. I gave it smaller eyes. Those are 6mm eyes, and I really think those feet and legs are just so cute. So cute. Yeah, so this one was pretty fun to make. It's a seagull, like it's like a little baby seagull. It needs a French fry or something in its mouth. Our next bird is the stork. Now the pattern called for red for the beak and the feet, but I made mine in orange. Here is my stork. There's the orange that I used, which kind of still looks like the colors that it did in the book, but it called for red for some reason. This uses the same body as the peacock, so I was mindful of where I was placing the eyes and the beak so that it would be looking straight ahead. I think the stork turned out pretty cute. My favorite part is how the feet kind of like dangle on there, but it needs a tail. I think some of these birds need tail feathers. There's my stork. Our next bird is the owl. Here is the owl. The owl did use the same body as the cockatoo, so that is one piece, the head and the body, and then everything else. This one had a lot of pieces because it's got those little like ears, and I used brown yarn for the feathers on its belly. I remember I used for this one the Skein Tones yarn. I'm not sure of what colors are, but just to have those different shades of brown, which I think worked out pretty good. So there's the little owl. Next we have the pigeon, and mine doesn't quite look like this one here. Here is my pigeon. Now mine is a little bit bigger than the other birds because I did use a 3.75 hook just because I needed different shades of gray yarn, and those all I had was the Loops and Threads Classic Acrylic, which is like the little bigger yarn. So this guy is just a little bit bigger than his friends. I chose pink for the feet because I didn't have coral like the pattern called for, but you can tell it's a pigeon, right? You can tell it's a pigeon. It reminds me of Bert from Sesame Street. Next we have the swan. Now when I saw this one, this was the only one that kind of intimidated me a little bit because of those feathers. So it was like, how do you make those? But the pattern explains it really good, and it's not so bad. Here is my swan. It's nice and poofy. It's very solid. The beak, it wasn't too hard doing the color changes, and then after you sew the beak on, you take some black yarn and just go from the beak, from the eye to the beak, and then around the beak and back to the other eye. It's not quite straight, like this one's dipping down just a little bit, but that's okay. No one's gonna notice, right? So all of these feathers, you just crochet around in, I think it's like the back loops for some of it, and then you attach the pattern for the feathers in the front loops. So it's not that bad. I didn't count. I just kept going and going until I got to the bottom, and I was like, okay, I think that is good. This one really sits up nicely just because of the way that it's made with its shape, and obviously it has no feet. But there's our little swan. Next we have the eagle. Here is my eagle. This one I did not do one piece for the head and the body because of how you have to work these neck feathers, but I'm glad that that detail is there because sometimes with eagle patterns you don't get that, and I think that looks really cool. The only thing with this is it needs some tail feathers. Eagles have tail feathers. So I'm probably going to be making this one again, and I will be adding some tail feathers to that. But this one, that looks pretty cute. I think I used 10mm eyes just to make those eyes pop. Sometimes bigger eyes make them look cuter. Next we have the duck. Now this is obviously a mallard duck, but in the pattern or in the book it's just called a duck, and it has no wings. So here is my little duck. I should have, I think, did one tan row up. Like I should only have a couple of the dark brown, but that's okay. And it doesn't have any, it's so round. No wings, no tail feathers. If I make this pattern again, I will definitely use one of the other wing patterns in the book to make this little guy some wings. You know? He reminds me of Bill from Animal Crossing. The next bird is not a bird at all. We have a bat, which is a mammal. In the book, she makes her bat out of brown and like light brown yarn in the wings, but I did mine in black. Here is my little black bat. It just has pink yarn for the nose, and I used obviously gray for the wings, the inside of the wings. So it's cute. I mean, it's a cute little bat pattern. I like it. So we have a little bat, even though it's not a bird, but that's okay. Next we have the hen. Here's my hen. I think this one turned out really good. I like the little feet, and you do have to sew everything on separately, but it's really easy. I mean, it doesn't really take that long to sew them on. I like these wings, how they're shaped, but once again, I wish it had tail feathers. So a lot of these birds, if I make them again, I will be adding tail feathers. Here is our last bird for the book. This is the chick. And here is my version of the chick. The book calls for red yarn for the beak and the feet, but I did not obviously do that. I did orange, and I sewed on the wings at a slight angle. In the book, it's got it like out, facing out. But it just needs a little character, I think. So this one is super cute. The little chick, which I guess could also be a duck. The very last pattern in the book is an egg. And here is my egg, just a simple white egg. Here's a close-up of the nest that I made. I made 2 of these nests because I was making these on my desk and all of the birds were just everywhere and I needed something to contain them. All I did is I just started a magic ring of 6 and then I increased all the way up until I think 11, and then I did a round in the front loops only or back loops only? Back loops only. And then I just crocheted up a few rows. Very simple. So I made this one. I held 2 strands together. And then the other one, this one right here, is made the same way. I think though I went up to 12, increasing to 12 because this one's just a little bit bigger. Held 2 strands together. And I've got a couple of nests for these birds. So I'm just going to pack these birds right into the nests, even though the bat doesn't really belong in a nest. Which one is your favorite? Or do you have a couple favorites? Which one would you like to make? These are really, really cute. Now, what am I going to do with all of these birds and a little bat? This one here is going to the lovely Amber at Crochet for her make-along for the elementary students whose mascot is an eagle. So, but I'm going to add a tail feather to this little guy before I send him off. I will be making more eagles. Here's our Blackbird. This one is my favorite because of the sparkles and the pink and those wings. So I wonder how many I can pack in here. Now the rest of these birds, Briella has already claimed, well, she's not all of them, but she wants to have a pet store for her dolls, and they're gonna have some pet birds. So that nest is full, and then whatever ones are left over will probably be donated. Maybe I'll turn them into keychains. I don't know quite yet what I'm going to do. Well, I know this one isn't going anywhere. I don't even want to put that guy back in the nest. So that one might be a cat toy. Dingo can play with that awful penguin. I might rub it with some catnip or something. It's safe for him. I mean, there's no safety eyes in it. It's safe. Okay, here comes the big pigeon. Get him in there. What do we got left? Is this the last one? The robin? Got the robin in there. So I can squish them all in. And there's a lot of birds. We got a lot of birds. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing all of the birds from that book. There are 2 other books in this series. There's an animals one and there's one with ocean creatures in it. And currently I am working through the ocean one. So pretty soon you guys will be seeing those cute little animals. Yeah, which one was your favorite? I still think the ostrich is my favorite. So I hope you guys are having a good day and I will be seeing you soon. Bye everybody.